de nuevo. Hey guys, this is one lesson, to be honest with you, I really do not enjoy teaching. Because sometimes at this point, the student begins to become overwhelmed with information. We could chalk up this lesson, it's called Stem Changing Verbs. We could label this as FYI. You ever get one of those emails at work or a little memo that says FYI? It just says, for your information. When I used to work for the state, if I got an FYI, I would glance at it and kind of set it aside, put it in a pile, all of my for your information pile, because it's not that tremendously important. So in this lesson, we're going to cover a group of verbs called stem changing verbs. But in all honesty, this is an FYI. This lesson is for your information, so you have an idea about how some verbs operate in Spanish. It isn't something that you have to master right now. It's not something that you should have to memorize right now. It is something you should be aware of. You're already using some verbs in your language that are called stem changing verbs. All of you know how to say I want. I want my tacos, right? Yo quiero dos tacos con queso. I want. You know how to say that already. You're already using it. That is actually a stem changing verb. We just learned how to use the verb tener recently in these usages. And we had él tiene, and usted tiene, and ellos tienen. Those are stem changing verbs also. So it's not absolutely necessary to know and be able to identify a stem changing verb, but it is important, I think, to be aware of what's going on. Right? And I'm going to actually give you a list of them, and so that you have a good list to start with. Well, a stem changing verb comes in one of three groups. We have three small groups of verbs that are stem changing verbs. Now the name stem changing means the stem is going to change. So far, all we've ever done is change the ending. We pull off the AR, we pull off an ER, pull off an IR, and we stick a new ending on. We still have to do that. We're going to make an additional change in the stem. And some of those are going to change their stem. They'll have an E that's in the stem. It'll be there. And they're going to change that E. They're going to change it to an IE. You're going to have another group of them that they have an O. There's the letter O is in the word as you find it in the dictionary, but it's going to change to a UE. And then there's a smaller group where there will be an E and it's going to change to an I. And usually the first question that students will have is, how do you know? How do you know? There's nothing that gives it away. There's no clue by looking at a word that tells you, hey, this one's going to change. It's just something that you become familiar with as you're using the language. There's no hints as to whether it's going to be a stem changer or not. And there's no way to decide, is it going to do this or is it going to do this? Stem changing verbs make an additional change. We still will follow the regular pattern that we've learned. AR verbs have the AR endings. ER verbs have an ER ending. IR verbs have an IR ending. Way back there, that first lesson on verbs we had, stem changing verbs are still going to follow that. They follow the AR, ER, and IR conjugation patterns in their endings, but they also change the stem of the word. Again, this is for your information, all right? Not something that you have to memorize. Let's see how it works. Here's the most popular stem changing verb, I think, in the language, is the verb querer. In the dictionary, when you look up the word querer, you find it means to want. And it's written like this, Querer. E-R. Pronounced querer. Say it. Querer. I have the stem circled here. That's the stem of the word. And if it followed the regular pattern, if I wanted to say I want, I would pull down the stem and put an O on it and say yo quiero. Have you ever heard the word yo quiero? No. You've never heard anybody say that, but you have heard people say yo quiero. What we have to do is we have to change the stem. The E changed to an IE. The E changes to an IE. So that's why we call it in the category of some where the E changes to an IE. And when we conjugate it, yes, we put the O, but we change the stem. Yo quiero. Yo quiero. If we go to the, and it means I want. If we go to the second one, you can't just pull the stem down and say yo tú quieres. You have to change the stem, and it comes out tú quieres. Tú quieres. Tú quieres comer? Do you want to eat? So, that's what we call a stem changing verb. The easiest thing is let's just be aware of it, and let me just give you a list of the most common ones, all right? That's the easiest way to deal with it. And so you'll become familiar one verb at a time, those that are stem changers. You already are familiar with this one, yo quiero. Down at the bottom, that means tú quieres means you want. Down here at the bottom, all the stem is changing. Él, ella, and usted, they all use the word quiere. That's he wants, she wants, or you want. Over here we have ellos and ustedes quieren. And there is this pattern. And the pattern is an L shape. So when we take our map, this L-shaped area, this is where the stem makes its change. Here, 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 and here. Outside of the L shape, there is no change. Nosotros queremos. Repeat. Nosotros queremos. And here it doesn't change, but we don't use the vosotros. We use ustedes instead in this hemisphere. So this is how a stem changing verb operates. They do have patterns, and they do follow their patterns. Then remember, there's 3 patterns. But even though they have those patterns, they all still use their correct endings. I'm underlining the endings here to show you that this is an ER verb, and ER verbs will put an O, es, e, hemos, and. So you see all the verbs still use their endings. They made an additional step. That additional change or additional step was that inside of the L shape, their stems are changing. That's it. The 3 categories, all right? We have the E's that change to an IE. Here's another one, just like the introduction verb, querer. There's this group where the E inside of the stem is going to make a change. So that E changes to an IE. And so I'll change that. And it happens inside of the L shape. So all the way around in the L, we have to change our stem. Change it to an IE, change it to an IE, to an IE, and over here change to an IE. But up here and here, it never ever changes. Yo pienso. Repiten. Yo pienso. Tú piensas. Usted piensa. Nosotros pensamos. And ustedes piensan. So this is the group, and there's many of them. Oh, gee, I could give you 100 of them. But if you know how to use a dozen of them, you're doing very well, all right? And I'm just going to give you that list. You can print it here from the website. If you're online, you'll see it right over there, the list of the stem changing verbs, or it'll be handed out in class. Here's the second group. The second group, that there will be occasionally verbs that have an O that's in the stem, and that O is going to change to a UE. It happens just like the pattern inside of the L shape. And so instead of saying yo puedo, pull this down and say yo puedo, the O is changed to a UE, and we say yo puedo. Tú puedes. Él puede. Nosotros podemos. And then we use ellos pueden. Puedo, puedes, puede, podemos, pueden. So the nosotros, if you caught on, never ever changes from the regular pattern. These do. All right. So the last small group are verbs that sometimes they'll have an E, and that E changes to an IE. Now, you're not going to know which ones change to an E from an E to an IE, or those that change from an E to an I. You're just not going to, there's no way to know. Someone just has to show it to you. So that's why I call this an FYI. For your information, there's a few verbs that change this, and there's the list. You printed it, or you've received it in class. Well, here's an example of one. But it will change inside of the L shape. This is the pattern that all of our stem changing verbs follow. The E has changed to an I. The E changes to an I here. The E changes to an I at this point, and then also over here it changes to an I. But it never changes in this spot. Yo pido. Repiten. Yo pido. Tú pides. Usted pide. You know, all these people can use this. Ella pide. Nosotros pedimos. Ellos piden. So, it's that simple. Just take the list and we'll become familiar with it. I would recommend those words that are important to you that you use either on job site or in your Spanish that you're speaking, just go ahead and get you a box together like this, and you can put it together and practice it. We'll practice some more in some of our written exercises that follow along. This was just an FYI. How do you say that in Spanish? F-Y, I, but that won't make any sense because we want to say para su información. Para su información. All right. Excellent. Hey, we'll see you in the next lesson. We're going to look at one more group of verbs for your information. There are some that the only place they change is in the yo. And I'll give you a list of them. See you in the next lesson. Adios. Adios.